Hello everyone. Tonight, we explore the horrifying final hours of the Mayan civilization. A journey through crumbling temples, vanishing cities, and eerie signs that something bigger than politics or war was at play. You're barefoot in a land of limestone and jungle, the air thick with smoke and something even heavier dread. You live in a city once called great, its stone pyramids like mountains against the tree line. But now you wake up coughing. Something's burning, not just wood, not just food, something more important. Maybe it's your neighbor's home again, or the paper bark hut of that old merchant who started speaking Nahuatl instead of Cholti a few months ago. Nobody trusted him anyway. You sit up your cotton blanket clinging with sweat. The drums are beating again, fast, urgent. Not the good kind, not the wedding beat or the rain dance. It's the beat that makes your teeth ache. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push open the woven reed door and step into dawn, but the sun's light feels off. Not orange, not gold. More like bruised yellow, the color of old teeth. And the smell, smoke sure, but also rotting cacao, burnt feathers, and something sharp like flint dust. Your city once had a name people whispered with respect, Tikal, or maybe Dos Pilas. Doesn't really matter. Names are slippery these days. The plaza that should be full of dancers is crowded with warriors and priests. They argue in knots. Someone's throwing obsidian shards at a wooden board while a boy reads out fragments of sky readings. You remember those boards used to be painted in bright blues and reds. Now scratched brown, covered in soot. Your friend Ixik leans beside you, her eyes rimmed with charcoal. Not for beauty, for mourning. They say Kopan's gone. You blink. Gone where she shrugs. The ground cracked, swallowed the east gate. The temple caved in. No one's heard from the council in 5 moons. You try to laugh, but your throat doesn't quite cooperate. She isn't joking. Kopan was strong. Not the biggest, sure, but clever. Rich. Obsessed with astronomy and time. If they've gone silent, something is deeply wrong. That's when you see the smoke isn't from your neighbor's hut. It's coming from the ball court. You hurry over, heart skipping like the last note of a broken flute. The court was sacred, used only for high rituals. Blood, yes, but dignified blood. The smoke pouring from it now is oily. You hear muttering, the gods won't answer. It's not enough. Too late. Inside, the chalk lines are smeared in crimson. Not the ceremonial kind. Not the clean kind. A priest is pacing, muttering into his jaguar mask. A younger one, bare-faced, kneels beside him, holding a bird's head still attached to half a spine. That was the wrong sacrifice, you hear someone whisper. It was supposed to be twins. You don't want to be here anymore. You don't even want to go home. But you do. And on the way, you pass the ceiba tree. Every city has one. Sacred. Tall. Its branches stretch like arms between worlds. You grew up believing it anchored heaven, earth, and the underworld. Today there's something hanging from its limbs. No, not something. Someone. Stripped, painted with ash, still swaying. Not a ritual. Not with that broken arm. That angle isn't part of any tradition you know. You stare too long. Someone pulls you away. Don't ask, they mutter. It was his fault. You want to say, whose fault for what? But you don't. Your tongue feels thick. By mid-morning, the sun blazes hot as usual, but the light feels distant, like it's shining through smoke, even when there isn't any. Birds are quiet. Dogs, too. Except one who just howls from a rooftop until a guard throws a spear and misses. Later that day, the high priest emerges. His robe looks heavier than usual, embroidered in bones. Human teeth, maybe? You pretend not to stare. He raises a hand. The plaza stills. The gods are testing us. The usual line. The people nod. The drought is not natural. It is punishment. Also standard. But it can be reversed. Through deeper obedience. You feel the chill then, not in your spine, in the crowd. They all stiffen. The last time he said deeper obedience, they took an entire household. Said the family had eaten sacred maize by accident. Nobody asked how. Historians still argue whether Mayan collapse was fast or slow. Political infighting, foreign invasion, climate religion run wild. You don't care about theories right now. You care that your world feels like it's exhaling its last breath. You can't name it exactly, but you feel it in your gut. Like when lightning's coming, or when someone says your name just slightly wrong. That night the drums beat again. Slower now, heavier, like a heart giving up. You don't sleep. You sit in the dark, tracing the cracks in your clay bowl and listening to the wind howl over empty rooftops. Tomorrow something ends. You can feel it. You rise before the sun, not because you want to, but because the ground groaned again during the night. Just once, like a long, low exhale from something ancient and disappointed, but that's enough to keep anyone from sleeping. The fields lie flat beneath a bruised sky, their colors pale and unsure. Your feet crunch through brittle stalks of maize that should be tall by now. They barely reach your knees. You crouch, rub a yellowed husk between your fingers. The kernels are dry wrinkled. Some haven't formed at all. One has what looks like a worm inside. Ixik joins you. She tries to smile. Fails. They prayed for rain all night. Burned a jaguar skin. You raise an eyebrow. That's not even a thing. She shrugs. It is now. The elders say the gods are watching. But if they are, they're doing it silently. From the treetops, or from behind those low clouds that refuse to break. You remember last year how the rains came late but still came. People danced barefoot in puddles, drank from gourds with laughing mouths. Now even the animals have stopped coming near the wells. You spotted a deer yesterday, ribs like knives, lips cracked. It didn't run when it saw you, just blinked once like it already gave up. The royal astronomers have stopped smiling. Their sunstone calendars are being revised in quiet corners. One priest was seen throwing his copy into the cenote. The sacred texts say everything is based on balance, rain follows drought, sun follows eclipse. But nothing is following anything anymore. Historians still argue whether Mayan agriculture was too complex, too rigid, too clever for its own good. Raised fields terraced hills canals, feeding thirsty crops. A marvel until the weather stopped cooperating. And now the soil is dust. A child trips near the edge of a field. His mother picks him up, brushing the dirt from his legs. But when she sees the dust sticking to his skin, her eyes flash wide with alarm. Stop touching the earth like that. She whispers, dragging him back by the wrist. You hear mutterings like that more and more. The ground is angry. It remembers what we buried. Nothing grows where lies were sown. You would laugh if the corn weren't wilting in your hand. At midday, you walk to the temple plaza to offer prayers. You bring incense bark, the good kind, the last of it. The priest at the gate stops you. He eyes your basket, frowns. No fruit, you shake your head. None grew this season. He lets you pass, muttering something about withholding offerings. The main altar is already crowded. People whisper, kneel, scratch glyphs in the dirt. Some offer broken jewelry. Others slice their palms with obsidian slivers, letting the blood drip into carved hollows. You hesitate. You've always done the rituals, always believed. But something about today feels off. You look up. The ceba's branches sway, but there's no wind, and you're not the only one noticing. A little girl beside you points. Mama, the tree's watching. Her mother hushes her quickly. But you saw it too, didn't you? The way the limbs trembled not in the wind, but like something was breathing inside them. Ixik says it's just fear. We're all spooked. The weather's weird. The food's bad. We're seeing things. But you've never seen the trees move like that. Later that evening, an elder named Kanahau gathers the younger scribes. You eavesdrop from the edge. The sun is too far south, he mutters. Our calculations are correct, but the sun is wrong. You glance up. It's still bright burning orange, but it looks misaligned. Crooked like a mask hung askew on the temple wall. Kanahau continues. We must stop counting days. The gods have stopped counting with us. One scribe looks up nervously. But what about the solstice festival? Kanahau snorts. Celebrate if you want. The sun won't notice. You've never heard him speak like that. This is the man who once wrote 3 full codices on planetary alignment. The one who memorized every bloodline from every dynasty. And now he says, to stop counting. You wonder, is this how it begins, or is it how it ends? At dinner, your brother roasts squash over a cracked hearth. It hisses and spits, but doesn't smell right. When you bite into it, it's bitter. Hollow. Something's wrong with the soil, he says. You nod, mouth full of disappointment. It tastes like forgetting, he adds. You don't know what that means. But you know exactly what he means. The city is quieter than it used to be. Less drumming, fewer market calls. The ball court hasn't seen a game in days. And at night the temples no longer echo with flutes, just footsteps and coughing. You fall asleep to both wondering if you'll wake up to another crack in the earth. You dream of trees with faces of cornstalks, whispering your name, of stars, flickering like dying candles. And when you wake, the field is worse. The maize is lying flat, like it gave up overnight. No storm, no flood, just surrender. By now, the priests have stopped promising rain. That's how you know it's bad. They still speak in riddles. Of course, they're priests, but lately their sermons sound more like apologies than predictions. You trudge toward the eastern cenote. It's the deepest one. Sacred, said to be the mouth of the underworld. You fetched water here since you were a child. You even carved your name into a limestone edge once back when there was enough water for reflections. Today the reflection is gone. So is most of the water. You peer over the edge. A few slick stones glisten far below, like the bones of something ancient and thirsty. The pool used to echo, but now your voice just disappears. You toss a pebble in, takes too long to splash. Behind you, an old woman weeps as she empties a gourd, offering her last sip to the spirits. Her arms are covered in beeswax charms. A priest walks past and doesn't even stop her because what is there to say? The gods clearly aren't answering collect calls anymore. Ixik joins you. She hasn't spoken much today. She's carrying a bundle of feathers, macaw eagle and one that might be owl. None from local birds, probably traded from the coast. They told me to take these to the Temple of Breath, she says. That's not real, you reply. Neither are answers, she shrugs. You look back at the cenote. There used to be frogs here. Singing ones. They've gone silent. Historians still argue about the droughts. Some say it was deforestation. Others blame volcanic activity or an El Niño event gone wrong. But standing here, you don't think it matters. What matters is that your city feels like it's dying from the inside out. And the worst part, it's doing it politely. quietly, like a noble bleeding beneath fine silk. At the far side of the cenote, you spot something new, a rope frayed and old tied to a stick wedged into the stone. And at the end of it, an empty basket. Someone's been trying to fetch water. Someone who couldn't climb, or someone they didn't want to come back up. You say nothing. You just turn around. On the way back, you pass the marketplace. It's quieter now. The fabric sellers sit behind fraying bolts of cloth, their threads tangled with dust. A boy tries to sell honey, but the bees have turned on him, and the skin on his arms tells the story. The fish vendor used to have a lively trade. Now he's just fanning flies off a single sunken-eyed snapper that smells like sadness. A traveling merchant with a wide-brimmed hat offers blessed salt. You ask what makes it blessed. It's from a cave where gods whisper, he says, with a toothless smile. You don't buy it, but someone else does. Desperation makes people generous with their silver. A woman tries to trade jade beads for a lump of cocoa paste. The vendor laughs. What will I do with that when the river's empty? Nobody answers. You walk past a group of children stacking stones in a spiral. When you ask what they're building, one girl says a map to where the water went. It's clever and heartbreaking, and possibly more accurate than anything the priests are offering. You reach the edge of the city where the trees start again. The jungle used to stay outside, polite, respectful. Now it presses inward. Vines curl around broken walls. Ants patrol abandoned courtyards. You've heard of whole towns being taken by the forest. The trees aren't enemies, but they are opportunists. You pass a collapsed granary. Its roof gave way last week, burying its last bushels. The smell still lingers like moldy dreams. Inside, someone has etched a glyph into the wall. It means hunger. But the carving is new. You don't want to know who left it. Later that day, a runner arrives from the southern watchtower. Covered in dirt, limps into the plaza with cracked lips. He collapses before speaking. When revived with a handful of stale water, he gasps. They're digging at the riverbed. Everyone stiffens. Who is a guard asks. The runner doesn't know. Just others. Strangers. Faces painted with lightning bolts. Your people used to be warriors. But now even the guards hesitate. Because who's really guarding anything anymore? That night you return to the cenote. Just to see. There's a figure at the edge, kneeling, dropping something into the water. You recognize them. It's the high scribe, the one who always wore turquoise cuffs, except now they're gone. She's whispering names, over and over. You step closer. What are you doing? She turns. Her eyes are red. They won't let go, she says. Who? The gods, the ancestors, the calendar itself. You don't ask further. You just sit beside her, watching the dark water reflect nothing. Above the moon is too bright. It feels like it's judging you. You want to scream, but instead you laugh. It comes out strange, like a cough that forgot it was supposed to be sad. The high scribe joins you in laughter, quiet, broken, and oddly freeing. Because if the world is ending, maybe all that's left to do is laugh into the void. Or at least into the cenote. You're up before the birds again, though. Lately, they've stopped showing up. No chirps, no flutters. Just the distant thud of some tool hitting something uncooperative, maybe wood, maybe bone. You've stopped asking. Today is supposed to be a day of tribute. Villages from the outskirts usually send offerings, woven blankets, cacao bricks, red feathers, the occasional live turkey. But today only one delegation arrives. And they don't look good. Their leader, a man named Kinel, walks with a limp and wears a necklace of obsidian chunks too large to be ceremonial. The rest of his group is quiet. No drums, no flutes, just footsteps and a wooden box carried like something fragile or cursed. They place the box before the council. The lid creaks open. Inside bones, human, small, arranged carefully, deliberately. The child vanished after the night rains stopped, Keenel says. We thought she'd wandered. Then others vanished too. Same age, same time. No screams, just gone. You feel Ixik's hand tighten around your wrist. You glance at her, and for the first time she looks afraid in a way you don't have words for. Historians still argue about disappearances in late classic cities. Some say disease. Others blame cultic factions. A few whisper about mass abductions, but no theory sits comfortably. Because the records become vague, evasive, like even the scribes were afraid to write things down. That's what today feels like something's being erased in real time. Later you wander to the edge of the river, or rather where the river used to be. The cracked clay yawns wide, etched with the tracks of desperate feet and dragged baskets. You spot something half buried in the sediment. A sandal, child-sized, the straps torn. You don't pick it up. You don't need to. Instead, your eyes are drawn to a set of footprints leading toward the jungle. They go deep, much deeper than the surface should allow, as if the child wasn't walking on the riverbed, but being pulled into it. You glance at the tree line and swear just for a moment that you see a shape long, slender, moving too smoothly to be human. But when you blink, it's gone. Ixik joins you again. This time she's brought a bowl of crushed chili and sap, something her grandmother used to smear at doorways to keep the bad dreams out. Do you believe the river can take people, she asks. You don't answer. Because last night you dreamed of your cousin Yaxtun, the one who vanished weeks ago. In the dream, he was sitting cross-legged at the bottom of a cenote, smiling up at you. But his smile was upside down, his eyes too wide, and his fingers were tangled in vines that seemed interested in being tangled. You'd almost called his name, but something stopped you. Back in the village, word spreads that another child is missing. This one from the artisan's quarter. She was seen chasing a squirrel. You remember that squirrel? It had a twisted paw and didn't blink. No one finds the girl. Just a strand of hair caught in a knotted basket by the east gate. The priests call for another ceremony, a cleansing. You know what that means. More blood, probably from the eastern captives. They haven't been seen in days, which is never a good sign. You watch the ritual from a distance this time. There's something off about the way the priest holds the blade. Too casually. Like he's cutting fruit, not fate. When the offering is complete, the crowd doesn't cheer. It just disperses. Slowly, like steam from a dying fire. That night, the dreams come back. This time it's not Yaxtun. It's your own reflection. Except it isn't moving when you do. It just stares, smiling that upside-down smile. You wake to find that your front door is ajar. You never leave it ajar. The coals in your hearth are cold. Your bowl of water is overturned. A trail of wet footprints, small barefoot, leads to your sleeping mat and stops. You don't scream. You just sit there tracing the prints with your fingertip until morning. You think about your cousin again. Not just that he vanished, but that when he left, he was the only one smiling. The sun rises late today. Or maybe your eyes are just slow to adjust, but the light feels wrong, like someone smeared the dawn with ash and forgot to wipe it clean. You walk through the central plaza and immediately sense something off. It's the king. Not just him, his whole retinue. They emerge from the temple of the sky serpent in full ceremonial dress, but the details are different. The king wears his usual feathered headdress, plumed with quetzal and green parrot, but the gold circlet across his brow is new, thicker, brighter, and not of this land. You squint. The filigree is finer than anything local artisans make. Foreign. You step closer with the crowd. That's when you notice his smile. Too broad, too practiced, like someone carved it on. He doesn't speak. A high priest does, chanting something in a language you don't recognize, liquid syllables that hang in the air like mist. When it ends, the king lifts a jade goblet and sips. Someone in the crowd gasps. The cup's trim is silver. Not a rare sight, except silver hasn't been mined here in years. Rumors had already begun weeks ago of metal birds arriving along the coast, their traders cloaked in waxed linen, offering trinkets for cacao. But now, it's more than rumor. Now it's dressing the king. Ixik whispers, "That's not our gold." She's right. You can feel it in your gut. That glint doesn't belong to this soil. Historians still debate the role of foreign influence in the Maya collapse. Was it trade? Was it pressure? Did elites cozy up to outsiders while cities starved? No clear answer. Just symbols like this, goblet that feel heavier than their weight. You trail the procession as it moves toward the sacrificial steps. Something else catches your eye. Two foreign-looking men in the rear heads, shaved skin, painted in thick, vertical stripes, standing unusually still. They don't bow, don't chant, just watch. Later, you ask a palace servant about them. He shakes his head. Not from here, not even from the coast. They brought maps drawn on skin. That night, the murals on the Eastern Temple are repainted. You pass them by torchlight and do a double take. The jaguar god, long depicted in rich black and ochre, now wears a band across his chest, an unfamiliar sigil, a half circle pierced by spears. You frown. That's not in the codices. The painter shrugs. New guidance from the court? Says the gods are evolving. Evolving. Like caterpillars into something you shouldn't touch. You visit the scribe hall the next day. It's usually full of chants and papyrus shuffling. Today it's silent. Too silent. Your friend Nikte is bent over a folded codex, copying symbols you've never seen. New calendar system, she mutters. Imported from across the sea. You laugh thinking she's joking. She's not. They say the stars obey it better, she adds. Our old one is unreliable. That's impossible. The Mayan calendar doesn't get things wrong. It's one of the most precise systems ever created. You try to read over her shoulder. The glyphs are crooked lazy. They curve like slugs, not stars. Who brought this, you ask? She hesitates. The king's court. Said it came on black bark. No roots. You leave. Fast. Outside, the plaza is alive again, but not in celebration. There's a commotion near the ball court. You push through the crowd and freeze. Two boys players are on their knees. Their headgear smashed their eyes wild. The game, it seems, ended in violence. The score markers were broken. One boy struck the other, not in ritual, in fury. The crowd isn't shocked, just resigned. The high priest arrives, eyes the scene, then simply says, "They've forgotten their place." He turns and leaves. No punishment, no ceremony, just silence. That's when you realize the rules are unraveling, not just of games, of everything. Later, at the foot of the palace steps, you notice the guards now wear short bronze daggers. That's not Mayan. You ask a craftsman why they've changed. Easier to hide, he replies. Why hide them? He doesn't answer, just smiles, that tight-lipped smile you're starting to hate. Ixik approaches after dusk, holding a pendant. Jade inlaid with foreign script. Found this by the river, she says. You run your fingers over it. Smooth, unfamiliar. Cold. I think she whispers we've been bought. You look at her. No, you say. We've been replaced. That night you light a small fire, not for warmth, for comfort. You burn an old prayer scroll just to see if it still smells like hope. It doesn't. You're awakened by drums again, but not the usual patterns. These are scattered like someone's heartbeat panicking inside a rib cage. You sit up blinking through the thick air. The smoke's worse today. Not from the cooking fires. This smoke is blacker like burnt resin and fear. Someone runs past your door yelling, "It's midday," which makes no sense. The sky is dark. A thick shadow creeps across the village, slow and complete, as if someone is smothering the sun with a giant, invisible palm. You grab your tunic and rush out, feet slapping against dry stone. The plaza is packed, priests, merchants, children gripping their mothers' skirts, all staring upward in a rigid silence. And there it is. The sun is gone. A thin ring of fire shivers behind a jet-black disk. Birds spiral overhead, then vanish into the trees. Somewhere a baby wails. Eclipse. You've seen them before, but not like this. This one feels personal. Someone near you gasps. The gods have turned their faces. Another whispers, "No, this is their eye." The high priest appears on the temple steps. He begins a chant, old rhythmic, but his voice cracks. You've never heard him sound uncertain. Not once. Historians still debate whether a specific eclipse coincided with major turning points in the Mayan collapse. Some point to 790 CE. Others argue it was superstition layered over political unrest. But standing here, you don't feel like you're watching an astronomical event. You feel watched. You look down at the stones beneath your feet. The shadow from the temple cuts through the plaza like a knife. And in the deepest part of that shadow, you see them. Eyes, not real ones, just flickers like light bouncing off obsidian. But they seem to stare back. You blink, shake your head. Nothing. Ixik grabs your arm. Let's go. But you can't move. You're frozen. Not by fear exactly, but by recognition. You've seen this before. Not in life in the codices. The forbidden ones. The ones locked in the scriptorium vaults with covers bound in spider silk and ink that shimmered when you looked away. One showed a sky just like this. A ring of flame. And a god with no face reaching down to reclaim the forgotten breath. Ixik pulls again harder. We need to go. You follow. As the eclipse continues, the plaza breaks into chaos. Some cry. Some fall prostrate. A few rip their clothes, smearing clay over their skin. But some do something worse. They laugh. Soft, eerie laughter, like they've been waiting for this. You pass a group of young nobles clutching clay dolls with no heads. One rocks back and forth, whispering, "The calendar broke." It never stopped breaking. You find cover in the abandoned granary. The shadows here feel safer, which makes no sense. But that's how upside down today is. Ixik presses her back against the wall chest, heaving. I saw something. What she hesitates. A face in the sky. You don't dismiss her. You nod. Because you saw it too. Back outside, the eclipse begins to fade. Light trickles back into the world like someone loosening a noose. The crowd stirs, but no one cheers. The priests offer a final chant, less a prayer, more a whimper. Then they descend the temple steps and walk into the forest. All of them, together. You never see them again. That night you return to the cenote. You're not the only one. A dozen others are there tossing offerings, fruit coins, teeth into the water. One man slices his palm and lets his blood drip in. To balance the sky, he mutters. You sit near the edge. Watch the reflection of the half-moon ripple. The water is lower than yesterday. And then you hear it. A whisper. Not from behind, not from above. From below. Your name. You lean closer. There's no one there. Iksik grips your shoulder. Don't listen. I didn't say anything. I heard you listening. You step back. She's crying. The shadows look back, she says. I don't think they blink. That night the city is too quiet. Not silent. Just watchful. You lie in your hammock staring at the ceiling. The dried maize hanging from the rafters looks limp, shrunken. You dream of standing beneath a sky made of stone where the stars are teeth and the moon bleeds ink. When you wake, your hands are damp. You check your water bowl. Still full. The dampness is from the stone floor, where someone or something left small wet footprints leading to your hammock. Again. By now even the stone seems uneasy. The stelae, those towering slabs carved with centuries of lineage and prophecy, begin to hum. Not audibly, not exactly. But when you stand near them, your teeth buzz. Your skull feels tight, like someone's whispering through the marrow. You test it. You press your palm against one. Warm. Not sun warm. Blood warm. Iksik won't go near them anymore. Stone isn't supposed to have opinions, she says. You pass one stele that's been cracked in two. The glyphs along its spine have changed. Subtly. The word for sun has been replaced with mouth. The symbol for arrival is now return. That's not erosion, that's rewriting. Historians still argue about the fluidity of Mayan glyphs, how meanings could shift depending on context, priestly revision, or spiritual pressure. But none ever suggested the stones themselves might rewrite history. One morning, the stele outside the Temple of Bones displays a new name, Chaham. No one recognizes it. Not a noble, not a scribe. A name that doesn't belong to anyone. By dusk, it belongs to everyone. You hear it whispered in the streets. A child scrawls it in charcoal on a hut wall. A merchant claims his sleep was filled with visions of Chaham. You begin to suspect this name isn't being remembered. It's being installed. You return to the scriptorium to investigate. Only 3 scribes remain. One weeps while copying the same glyph over and over. Another chants under his breath, dragging his stylus across bark paper with a shaking hand. You find Nikte pale and tired, hunched over an unfinished codex. They're writing themselves, she murmurs. What are the pages? I leave them blank. By morning, the ink is dry. You flip through her scroll. New text in a language you don't recognize. The glyphs twist like vines. That's not possible, you say. She laughs dry and cracked. None of this is. You leave before the ink starts looking back. Later that week, a stone is unearthed from beneath the eastern field. Rough, uncarved, on one side, on the other, it bears a single glyph, your own name. You stare at it. Touch it. It's not a prank. The carving is too deep, too aged. And beneath your name, a date. Next week. Iksik sees it too. She doesn't speak, just pulls you away and doesn't let go of your hand until you're back at your hut. That night, you dream of writing. But you're not holding the stylus. Your hand is, but you're not. You try to stop. You can't. Your fingers sketch glyphs into the air, into the dirt, onto your skin. When you wake, your palms are stained. You wash them in the basin. The ink doesn't come off. You tell yourself it's just charcoal. Just coincidence. But later that day, a stranger arrives in town. A boy, maybe 12. Eyes wide, hair braided in a pattern you've never seen. He walks right up to you and says, "You're Chaham." You freeze. "No," you say. "That's not my name." He tilts his head. "It is now." He hands you a folded strip of bark. When you open it, you see a drawing. It's you, standing before a burning temple, holding a knife made of bone. You drop it. The boy walks away. Doesn't look back. Iksik finds you sitting there, staring at the dirt. She picks up the strip, reads it, says nothing. Finally, she murmurs, "Do you want me to hide it?" You nod. But when you check her hut later that night, it's not there. Neither is she. In the plaza the next morning, someone's painted the glyph of Chahomkin across the front of the temple, in your blood. You know it's yours because the bowl you use for cuts is missing, and your palm won't stop throbbing. By the time you reach the Temple of Offerings, you already know the altar will be wrong. You feel it in your chest, tight like stone pressing on your lungs. The steps leading up are slick with something darker than rainwater, and when your foot slips, your hand catches the edge of the platform. It's warm. Again. The priests are gone. All of them. No torches, no chants, no incense. Just the altar split down the center like a cracked tooth. You kneel beside it, tracing the surface. The stone is pitted where blood should have soaked in, but it hasn't. It pools, now gleaming and thick like the rock no longer wants to drink. You glance around. Bits of bone are scattered like forgotten tools. Some still have sinew clinging to them. This isn't a ceremony site anymore. It's something else. Something more industrial. You remember when you were younger watching your uncle lead a ritual with quiet dignity. Every cut was sacred, every drop of blood, part of a conversation with the divine. Now it feels like shouting into a void that never planned to answer. You step back and notice something scrawled along the bottom of the altar where worshippers used to lay down feathers and coins. It's a name, not a god, not a noble. Yours. Again. Ixik appears out of breath, covered in ash. She grips your arm. They tried to sacrifice a jaguar, she gasps. It turned on them. What at the festival? The jaguar, they had it bound, but it slipped its rope. Killed 2 guards. Climbed the pyramid. And then she swallows. Then it vanished. Into the temple. It hasn't come back out. A holy animal gone rogue. That's not a good sign. Historians still wonder whether jaguar sacrifices in the final days were symbolic of chaos or just desperate theater. You think they missed the point. The jaguar refused. Later that day, you help gather bundles for a communal fire. It's part of the renewal ritual. Not a real one. Just something the elders made up to keep people from panicking. You carry your bundle past a row of shrines. The offerings there are all wrong copper trinkets, animal bones arranged in spiral shapes, bits of glass. One shrine has a baby tooth tied to a hawk feather. You don't ask. At the fire pit, someone lights the bundles with coals from the ruined temple. The smoke is thick, bitter. As it rises, a woman screams. Everyone turns. She's pointing upward. You follow her gaze. In the smoke shapes, not faces glyphs. They twist and swirl above the fire like they're trying to spell something. Someone says, "It's the old language." Another replies, "No." Older. A boy reaches into the flame and pulls out a chunk of a charred bark. His hand should burn. It doesn't. He stares at the blackened scrap, nods once, and walks away. You follow him. He stops at the edge of the plaza and places the bark into a crack in the wall. As soon as it touches stone, it vanishes. No one says anything. Everyone saw it. No one will say anything. Later, you return to the altar. The blood's still there. Hasn't dried. You crouch beside it, touch it with the back of your knuckle. It ripples. Blood is not supposed to ripple. You stand and hear a click behind you. You turn. One of the stone reliefs, just a plain jaguar's head is moved, just a few degrees. Its mouth is slightly open now. You hear a whisper. Your name. But this time it comes from inside your own head. Ixik finds you there again, hours later. You're still staring at the altar. She kneels beside you quietly. It's not about the gods anymore. What is it about then? She takes your hand. It's shaking. They're rewriting the ending. You want to laugh. You don't. Because suddenly you realize this altar isn't for offering. It's for remembering. It's cataloging the collapse one cut at a time. And your name is already in the index. The forest never used to come this close. It used to keep its respectful distance, pressing up against the city's edge, but never quite crossing the invisible line between jungle and stone. Now the jungle acts like it owns the place. Vines creep over courtyards by morning. Saplings spring up between cracks in the temples. Beetles skitter through houses like they've inherited them. You see a squirrel run along the ledge of the Temple of Masks and vanish into the mouth of a carved skull. And you're pretty sure that skull didn't used to be open. Ixic's uncle went hunting yesterday. Took a group of 6, all seasoned, all armed. Only one came back. He wandered into town at dusk, face cut with thorn scratches, shirt torn like he'd wrestled a tree. He kept repeating the same thing. They were turned around, their spears. They were pointing at us. "What do you mean?" someone asked. He blinked. "We found them in the trees. Their spears were stuck in the trunks facing home." He wouldn't say anything else. Just sat at the base of the stele and started humming a lullaby. The next morning, he was gone. The humming wasn't. You went into the forest once years ago on a rite of passage hunt. You knew the paths. You knew the sounds. The insects, the monkeys, the birds that scream like babies. Now it's different. The birds are mostly silent. The monkeys don't come near. And something else moves out there, big, smooth, deliberate, like a predator that doesn't need to rush. You hear a howl one night, not a dog, not a coyote. It echoes too cleanly. Ixich says her cousin saw something with eyes like moonlight and skin like carved root. You tell her that's nonsense. But you don't really believe yourself. Historians still debate whether some cities were abandoned due to warfare, internal collapse, or spiritual hysteria. But you're starting to think the forest simply waited its turn. You visit the edge just to see for yourself. There's a clearing where a shrine once stood. The shrine's gone now, swallowed whole. In its place, a circle of trees. They didn't used to be there. Their trunks are smooth, too smooth, like they were placed. You circle them, count them, 13, the sacred number. You place your hand on one, warm, no surprise. And then you see it, a face, not carved, not drawn, grown, subtle and unmistakable. The curve of cheekbone, the suggestion of lips, the faint ridge of a nose beneath the bark. It's watching you. You stumble back trip on a root fall. You expect the forest floor to catch you soft and leaf-strewn. Instead, it's hollow. You land on something hard. Flat. Stone. You clear the dirt with your hands. It's a slab. Carved. A door. You lean in closer. The glyphs are old, very old. Older than the ones on the temples. Simpler. Deeper. You recognize one. It means speak. Another means bound. The last is new to you. A swirl with a central dot. You don't like the way it seems to pulse. You stand. Back away slowly. Ixich meets you near the trail. She sees your face. What happened? They've built something, you murmur. Underneath. She frowns. Who, you don't answer, because you're not sure you want to know. At night you hear scratching. Not animal, not rodent. Fingernail, on stone. You press your ear to the floor. A voice hums, familiar. The same lullaby the hunter sang. Only now it's coming from below. You sit up. Your breath catches. Because outside your door there's a vine slithering across the threshold. And it's holding a spear. By the next day, the priests start wearing jewelry no one recognizes. Gone are the embroidered sashes of jade and obsidian. Now they walk the plaza with metal bands that gleam like firelight even when there's no sun. Thin, hammered strips of foreign gold hug their wrists, their throats. It's not local. Too smooth. Too bright. It has a sharpness to it, a kind of hunger in how it reflects the sky. You ask a copper worker where it came from. He won't meet your eyes. They said it was a gift. From who he looks over his shoulder. From the sea. You laugh until he holds up a brooch. A sunburst with edges like broken teeth. It's wrong. Like it belongs to a different belief system entirely. That evening, the high priest delivers a sermon. His voice is stronger than it's been in weeks. He talks of new revelations and the integration of wisdoms. What he doesn't mention, where he got the gold. Or why half the court now wears belts of woven silver with stones that hum when the air is still. You notice the guards have changed too. Their spears are shorter. Their armor's reinforced with dark metal bands etched in symbols no one here learned to write. And they walk differently. Not in rows, not like soldiers, more like wardens. Ixik tugs your sleeve during the speech. That's not our god. You follow her eyes. Behind the priest, a new idol has been erected. It's massive, crooked, like it was sculpted mid-scream. Not a jaguar, not a serpent, something between. A body too long, a mouth too wide. The surface shimmered like oiled leaves, and the base is wrapped in chains. The priest finishes his chant and kneels before it. No one claps. Someone mutters, "Why does it look like it's listening?" Historians still puzzle over odd deities appearing in late Mayan iconography figures, with elongated limbs, mismatched eyes, and twisting postures that don't match earlier patterns. You think maybe they weren't gods at all. Maybe they were warnings. Later that night, you sneak into the temple. You want to see the idol up close. The guards don't stop you. They're not even there. Inside, it's quiet. Too quiet. The idol looms taller than it looked from the plaza. At its base, a bowl filled with dark liquid steams, even though the air is cold. You approach, kneel, peer in. The surface moves, not like water, more like silk being pulled just beneath. Then something blinks. You stumble back. From behind the idol, a figure steps forward. Not a priest, not a guard. A woman draped in gold-stitched fabric, wearing a circlet that glows faintly green. Her eyes are painted black, so dark it feels like looking into holes punched through her skull. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I came to see you reply." She studies you. "What did you see?" "A face. In the bowl." She nods. "Good. It saw you too." You swallow. "What is it?" She doesn't answer. Instead, she leans forward and whispers, "They said we were chosen, but not for what you think." You turn to leave. She doesn't stop you. Outside, the wind has changed. It's colder now. It smells like rust and candle smoke. You find Ixik sitting by your door sharpening a bone blade. "They found another stele," she says. "This one shows the priests melting." Melting? She nods. Their faces are gone, just dripping. But they're still walking. You don't sleep. Instead, you write your name in the dirt beside your mat, over and over, just to remember. But by morning, it's gone, replaced with the glyph for substitute. You wake to silence again, but not the peaceful kind. This silence presses down on you, like the air itself is waiting for something to move, to scream, to snap. Outside, the sky is the color of a healing bruise. No wind, no birds. Even the jungle holds its breath. You hear a rustle behind your neighbor's hut and peer around the corner. A group of mothers are crouched together, whispering furiously. Their arms are drawn tight around their children, each clutching their child's face, tilting it toward the light. One mother sobs. Her boy's eyes are a pale, silvery blue. You've never seen that in this village. His pupils don't react to the sun. He stares past her, past all of you. Ixik hurries up beside you. Another one, she says. That makes 4 this week. What's happening to them? She just shakes her head. They were all born after the rain stopped. The children won't speak. They don't cry. But they listen. You feel it in your bones. Those pale eyes are not just seeing, they're memorizing. Like they're gathering information for something not quite human. They've been to the caves, someone mutters. A grandmother, toothless and nearly blind, clutches her reed walking stick and speaks to no one in particular. The bats bring them back wrong. Historians still debate the use of caves in Mayan spirituality portals to the underworld sites of sacrifice wombs of the gods. But you've heard whispers lately that they've become doors. Not metaphorically. Doors? You visit one. Out of curiosity, out of dread. Maybe both. It's one of the smaller caves near the edge of the abandoned granary. No one's gone inside for years. They said the air turned sour after the eclipse. The mouth of the cave is sealed with woven branches and wax. Or was. Something's torn through it. You kneel and peer inside. You don't see much, just stone walls slick with condensation. But you hear it. Not bats, but water. Something breathing, not hard or fast. Slow, like it doesn't need to try. Ixik tugs your arm. We shouldn't be here, I know. But you don't move, not yet. Because for a moment you swear you hear laughter. Not malicious. Playful. Like a child amused by something you can't see. Later that night, one of the children from the village disappears. The boy with the silver eyes. He wasn't taken. There was no sign of struggle. His mat was cold when his mother checked it. But outside her hut, carved into the packed earth, is a perfect spiral made of fingernail marks. You ask Nick to the scribe if it means anything. She turns pale. That's the glyph for return, but it's backwards. What does that mean? It means he's not coming back as himself. 2 nights later, the boy does return. He walks calmly into the plaza during a prayer ritual, completely naked eyes, still that same ghostly color. He sits cross-legged in the center of the plaza and smiles. He begins to hum. Everyone recognizes the tune. It's the same lullaby that's been haunting dreams and stele in the air beneath your floor. Only now it has words. No one taught him the words. Ixik grabs your hand. Do you hear that? You nod. It's a warning. The boy stands. He begins walking barefoot and slow toward the forest. No one stops him. No one can. He doesn't look back. But just before he vanishes between the vines, he raises a single hand and points not at the crowd, not at the priests, at you. The next day, your water bowl is filled with tiny bones. Bird mouse. You're not sure, but one of them has a sliver of gold embedded in it. You toss it out the door. When you come back inside, it's already back in the bowl, and now it's humming. That night, you walk to the coast, not because you expect answers, just fewer questions. The village near the shore used to be lively, bustling with trade-salted fish dyes, obsidian honey. Now it's quieter. The stalls are mostly empty. The boats are tethered but unmanned, bobbing like forgotten toys in dark water. You meet a man there, thin, leathery, wrapped in a sun-bleached robe that might have been white once. He smells like dried salt and old wood. You've heard of him before. They call him Shell-Eye. He's not a merchant, not really. No one knows where he's from. But he always brings something strange. Trinkets with odd symbols. Tokens that shimmer too brightly. A single earring that bleeds when it rains. You sit beside him on the dock. He doesn't look at you. Just tosses a cracked shell into the waves. They've been here before, he mutters. You frown, Hui finally glances at you. His left eye is cloudy, milky white, but it moves, flickers, tracks something invisible. The ones who take shape in firelight, who offer answers but steal memory, who walk backwards into your dreams. You wait. He tosses something into your lap. A coin. Not local. Heavy. Black. On one side, a bird with too many wings. On the other, your face. But older. You drop it. It clinks, rolls, and vanishes between the boards. Shell-Eye chuckles. Trade's been good lately. He tells you that 3 nights ago a canoe came ashore with no rowers. Just a single figure slumped in the center. A woman dressed in seaweed and gold. She was breathing barely, but her chest moved in 2 directions. She spoke, he says, not with her mouth, with her shadow. You nod like that makes sense, because terrifyingly it kind of does now. You look out across the sea. There's a glow on the horizon. Not fire, not sunrise. Something else. It pulses once, twice, then stops. You turn back. Shell-Eye is gone. You find yourself walking inland again. The sand clings to your ankles like it's trying to hold you back. Halfway back to the city, you see something hanging in a tree. A bundle. Feathers, bones, and a strip of your tunic. You didn't put it there. You don't even remember that piece going missing. Later you find Ixik waiting by your door. She looks shaken. I tried to barter with the travelers, she says. The ones with the shaved heads and silver teeth. You what they knew my name. Told me I'd already traded. Gave me this. She holds out her hand. In her palm, a sliver of paper-thin metal. On it etched deep and jagged is your name. Not hers, yours. Why would they give you my name? She looks up, voice hollow. Because I no longer have mine. You sit in silence. You ask Nikta for help. The scribes have books, diagrams, rules. She pulls out an old codex. Dusty, burnt along the edges. There's an entry barely visible about names being traded. In times of great imbalance, she reads aloud names may be harvested. The gods must eat identities to grow new flesh. New flesh, she nods, to walk among us. You feel something cold behind your eyes. You've been bartered, she says. You're part of a contract now. You press your hand against your chest. Your heartbeat feels offbeat, like it's trying to sync with something else. That night, you dream of a great banquet. All the food is made of teeth. All the guests wear your face. You wake up screaming, but no sound comes out. Your throat is full of salt, and on your mat lies a shell. Inside it, another coin. This time your face is smiling, but your eyes are gone. The Festival of Knives was always a strange one, even in better years. Originally meant to honor the weaving of balance between sacrifice and harvest, it featured elaborate masks, tight dances, and the symbolic unmaking of old debts. Mostly harmless theater, albeit a little bloody if someone slipped. This year it feels different. You walk into the plaza and immediately notice the energy. Tense. Like everyone's holding their breath, waiting for something to go wrong. Drummers tap too fast. The dancers don't move in sync. And then there are the masks. They're always ornate, carved from wood bone and stone, painted in colors pulled from flowers and clay. But today's masks are all wrong. One is too large, swallowing the wearer's shoulders. Another has 4 eye holes, and more than a few look like faces you know, twisted just enough to feel unfamiliar. Ixik wears a red and black serpent mask. She meets you by the torch line. No one's dancing, she says. They're just twitching. You nod. You've noticed that too. The high priest enters in silence. He's wearing a new robe, stitched with what looks like silver thread. You hope it's thread. In his hand, a blade of black glass, longer than usual, thinner. It bends when he raises it toward the crowd. The crowd bows, not all of them willingly. Some need to be pushed. The ritual begins, or it tries to. The priest stumbles on the second verse. His voice cracks. Someone laughs. The kind of laughter that doesn't belong in a sacred space. The priest glares steps down from the altar, and that's when it happens. A dancer falls. Mask cracks. And underneath, it's not a stranger. It's Governor Chakmuk, a noble, a council member, someone who's supposed to be in the city of Palenque right now. He blinks dazed. His face is tattooed not with local markings, but with foreign glyphs in thin blue spirals. Why is he here? Someone whispers. Guards move, fast, too fast. They seize him, drag him behind the temple steps. You never see him again. Historians still note strange disappearances of Mayan elites late in the civilization's timeline. Sudden changes in status, odd silences in family records. You've just watched one unravel in real time. More masks fall. 1, 2, 3. All show faces with strange alterations, eyes tattooed black lips, sewn shut skin, marked with what looks like burned script. No one speaks. No one moves. The priest regains his composure. He ends the ceremony early. The crowd disperses slowly. As you pass a family of weavers, you hear a child ask Mama, why did everyone look scared behind their faces? Her mother doesn't answer. You and Ixik return to your hut. You bolt the door. You light 3 fires instead of 1. She speaks first. Do you think they're replacing us? You shake your head. I think they're already done. She places a bundle on the mat. Inside it, a cracked mask. It's yours. The one you wore last year. Except now someone's etched a smile into it and lined the inside with teeth. That night, you have no dreams. Instead, you wake to find your own mask propped against your face, and the teeth inside are warm. At first, you don't believe the runner. He stumbles into the city barefoot, lips, cracked eyes wide with salt dust and sleep deprivation. Fire, he gasps. Smoke at dawn. Over the trees, 2 cities gone, vanished. You give him water. You give him a place to sit. Then you listen. He speaks in fragments of burned temples of idols crumbled to powder, of stone roads torn like fabric. They didn't take anything, he says. They just ended. You feel Ixik tense beside you. Which city's Yaksha, he says first. Then almost too softly, Elzats. Your stomach turns. You have cousins in Elzats. You think. Or maybe you had them. The runner sleeps for 3 days straight. When he wakes, he doesn't speak again. Just stares at the sky like it owes him something. You go to the eastern road, the one that leads toward Yaksha. The air is hazy, and not just with heat. Ash drifts across the path like lazy ghosts. You walk for hours. You reach the outpost, but it's empty. No guards. No torches. Just shoes. Dozens of them abandoned, lined up neatly facing away from the city. No footprints leading forward. Just gone. Ixik joins you at dusk. She doesn't say anything, but you can tell by her face she saw the same thing. You return home together in silence. At night, the city holds an emergency council. You're not supposed to attend, but you do. Everyone's speaking over each other. No unity, no plan. Then someone stands. A tall man cloaked in yellow. You've never seen him before. He speaks slowly with a calm that doesn't match the moment. The gods are done waiting, he says. Balance has been broken. Those who cling to the old names will burn. He pulls something from his satchel, holds it up. It's a tooth. As long as your hand, not animal, not human. Something in between. The council falls quiet. He lays the tooth on the stone table. The first city to fall made the mistake of asking questions. The second made the mistake of doing nothing. And us, someone asks, barely above a whisper. The man smiles. We've been given a chance. Later you ask Ixik what she thinks. I think that man doesn't cast a shadow, she says. You remember seeing him on the temple steps? She's right. You don't sleep that night. You stand outside and watch the treetops. At some point, you see a flicker on the horizon. Red, orange, gone. Smoke comes the next morning. You gather in the plaza. Everyone sees it now, a thick column twisting up from the trees to the south. Elzatz is gone. Confirmed. You hear children asking where it went. Some say it burned, others say it sank. One girl says it was peeled away like bark. You want to correct her? But that phrase sticks with you. Peeled away. You visit the southern edge again just to see. The road ends earlier than it should. Not in rubble, not in collapse. It ends in white. A sheer wall of bleached stone, smooth as a tooth, rises where the road should continue. You touch it. It's warm. You back away. Ixik places her hand beside yours. That's not stone. She's right. You hear a hum low and constant beneath the silence of the jungle. When you return, the plaza has been decorated overnight. Someone painted red spirals on the temple stairs. Not with pigment, with something sticky, thick, dark. You climb the steps to look closer. It's writing, but it only spells one word: obey. You don't know who it's for, but you know it's not a request. The ball game was supposed to be symbolic, ceremonial. A balance of life and death, yes, but controlled, ritualized. Now it's just violent. You arrive at the court after hearing the commotion echo across the plaza. Drums too fast, cheers that sound more like threats. Ixik is already there. Standing at the edge of the stone alleyway, arms folded, jaw set. They started without the priests, she mutters. Didn't wait for the blessing. That's not just unusual. That's dangerous. You peer into the court. The players, 4 on each side, aren't wearing ceremonial garb. No feathers, no paint. Just rawhide padding and wrapped fists. One slams the heavy rubber ball against the wall hard enough to send a chunk of stucco flying. Another screams, not in triumph, but rage. And then it escalates. One of the defenders lunges not for the ball, but for the opposing striker. Shoves him. The striker tumbles backward and cracks his head against the edge of the stone ring. The sound is sickening. Blood spills across the court. Not a cut, a gash. Nobody moves. For a breath. Then the striker stands. You swear he should be unconscious, but he rises swaying and smile. Not a human smile. Too many teeth. Ixik grabs your arm. Look at his eyes. You do. They're white. Not silver like the children's. White. As if everything behind them has been wiped clean. The crowd doesn't cheer. They stare. Another player drops his bat and runs. He doesn't make it to the steps before collapsing. Not from injury. From confusion. He's trying to eat the ball. Guards arrive, but they don't stop the game. They form a circle around the court and begin to chant. Not the usual chant. This one sounds like it's going backward. Ixik's breathing picks up. That's not our language, she's right. The syllables are slick like oil on water. Someone in the crowd yells, "Stop this," and then they're gone. Not dragged, not silenced. Just gone. Mid-sentence. Historians still puzzle over records of erratic ceremonial behavior in late-period courts, mass disorientation, unexplained violence, vanished players. You're not puzzled. You're terrified. A flare of light erupts in the center of the court. Everyone flinches, even the guards. When the light fades, the ball is gone. In its place, a stone sphere with faces carved into it. Not generic faces, familiar ones. You see your uncle, your neighbor, yourself. all screaming. You back away, fast. The guards don't react. They just keep chanting. Later, the plaza is roped off, not by rope, by vines woven together sprouting from the stone itself. The court remains sealed. No one speaks of it, but you hear people whisper about games that play themselves. Iksik tells you that the striker who stood up the one with the two wide eyes walked into the jungle that night. No one followed. You remember when the ball game was about stars and cycles and honoring sacrifice. Now it's about something else. Not balance, not glory, just spectacle. And you get the feeling the audience isn't human anymore. That night you hear thumping outside your hut, rhythmic, like a ball bouncing. You open the door. Nothing there. Just a single handprint on your mat. Pressed deep, wider than any hand should be, and still warm. The scribe's ink is dry. You're helping Nikti inventory what's left of the papyrus rolls when she pauses, mid-gesture eyes, fixed on the latest page she's unrolled. I think this is the census, she says softly. You nod, kneeling beside her. For this district, no. She points, for everyone. You frown. But we just did one 3 moons ago. She nods. This isn't that. The scroll before you lists names in long, neat columns. At first, it's ordinary. Lineage names, tribal identifiers, house markers. Then you notice the ink. It shifts in the light purple in the shadows, red under torchlight. And the entries change. Nikte reads aloud. Tepu born, year of the reed. Father of 2. Died from snakebite, no wait. She blinks. Now it says, missing. You both stare. You watch the glyph shift ever so subtly on the page. You snatch another scroll. Open it. Same thing. Names rewriting themselves. Not from decay, from update. I think this is being written by something that's watching us, you whisper. She doesn't argue. Instead, she points to the bottom of the scroll. A new section. A recent addition. Upcoming entries. And sure enough, there they are, names of people still alive. People you saw yesterday. Your neighbor. Your cousin. Your own name. Next to yours, no cause of death. Just one word. Pending. Historians still argue whether Mayan scribes maintained population records for religious or bureaucratic purposes. Whether such records were tools of control or attempts at divine alignment. Looking at this scroll, you suspect the answer is both. Nikte rolls it up carefully, hands trembling. We need to burn these. You shake your head. No. If they're writing themselves, they'll just reappear. That afternoon, a boy from the northern quarter delivers a bundle to the temple. When asked what it is, he says new names. Inside the bundle, dozens of carved stones, each with a single glyph. Each one matches a person in the plaza. The stones begin to hum as soon as they're touched. The high priest gathers them in silence, arranges them in a circle, and draws a line through the middle. You recognize it. It's the glyph for departure. You ask him what the stones are for. He replies, to remember the ones who haven't left yet. You walk home in silence. Iksik joins you halfway there. She tells you her uncle died in his sleep last night. When they opened his hands, he was clutching one of the stones. He didn't own one. No one gave it to him. It found him. You light your torch and go to the Temple of Masks. A new inscription has appeared on the outer wall. The glyph is simple, just a spiral surrounded by eyes. You think it means seen, not watched, not recorded, seen, as in known, as in no longer private. You can't sleep that night, not because of dreams, because of math. The names are disappearing faster than they're added. The ledger is thinning. But some names, too many names, remain in that pending column, including yours. You don't know if that means you've been spared or selected. The bees swarm backward. You're the first to notice it out by the temple gardens where the last surviving hives are kept in clay pots, painted with spirals and sunbursts. At first, you think the buzzing just sounds strange, like a broken flute note echoing the wrong way. But then you see them. Dozens of bees, moving in spirals, counterclockwise. One bumps into your ear, another into your forehead. They're not attacking, they're confused, disoriented. You watch one circle a blossom and turn away without landing. The flower remains untouched. The pollen inside has turned gray. Ixik arrives, her arms full of dried herbs. She pauses mid-step. "They're flying wrong," she says. "I know." You walk to the nearest hive. The clay is cracked. There's honey leaking from a fissure at the base. You dip a finger in and sniff. It smells sour, not rotten. Bitter? You taste it, regret it immediately. It burns. Your tongue tingles not from sweetness, but like you've been stung inside. Historians still marvel at Mayan beekeeping. Melipona bees, stingless and sacred, were used in rituals' medicine trade. Their honey was gold, healing, holy. This honey feels cursed. Ixik touches your arm. Look. On the side of the hive, etched into the clay, a new pattern has appeared. Not carved, not painted. It looks like mold, but shaped, formed into a glyph. A jagged line bisecting an open eye. You don't recognize it. Neither does she. "It wasn't here yesterday," she says. You step back. More hives are leaking now. Bees crawl in spirals around them, trailing blackened legs, wings flickering too fast to count. And then they stop, all at once. Thousands of them. Still, frozen. You take a step forward, something crunches under your foot. You look down. A carpet of bees, all facing the same direction. Toward the temple. You leave. Fast. Later that day, one of the herbalists reports that all the aloe plants have withered overnight, and the dried lavender turned black, crumbled at a touch. The medicine woman begins fasting. She says the spirits have turned inward, that they're closing the ears of the world. You ask what that means. She replies, they don't want to hear the screaming. That night, Nikta shows you a codex fragment from the Southern archives, burnt around the edges, nearly unreadable. But on it faintly are bees, spiraling inward, surrounding a single word, reversal. You ask what it means. She hesitates. There's a belief that when the balance of the world fails, time tries to backtrack. It doesn't work, but it tries. You glance outside. The moon has risen in the wrong part of the sky. Again. Ixik joins you just before dawn. She's holding a beeswax candle. I lit it, she says. It flickered once, then went out. But the wax kept melting. You hold her hand. It's sticky, sweet-smelling. A thin trail of honey leaks from her palm. You both watch it. You don't say anything. You don't need to, because the bees have returned. But they're not flying anymore. They're crawling in long, silent lines, forming letters, forming names. And at the center of the courtyard, they're spelling yours. The Temple of Skulls collapses just before midday. There's no storm, no quake, no warning. One moment it's standing, casting its long shadow across the central road. The next, it gives a single groan, low, hollow, mournful, and begins to crumble like a sand sculpture too long in the sun. People rush to the scene, but no one screams. Not yet. You and Ixik arrive in time to see the central roof stone, enormous, carved with hundreds of glyphs split clean down the middle. Dust blooms outward in a lazy cloud, and then silence. A strange padded silence. You expect debris, crushed stone, the remains of the bone altar beneath. But there's nothing. just an empty pit. The bones are gone. The entire ossuary centuries of offerings vanished, not shattered. Removed. Ixik speaks first. It's been hollowed. You inch closer, peer over the edge. The walls of the pit are smooth, too smooth, like tunnels, not ruins. One slopes downward, lined with claw marks, long grooves in the stone, as if something big had climbed out. You stumble back. A child tugs your tunic. I saw them walking last night, she said. The skulls, the what they got up, shook off the dust, walked away smiling. You try to laugh, can't. Historians still question the purpose of the Temple of Skulls. Some claim it was a political monument. Others suggest a storage site for relics of defeated rulers. You're looking at what's left, and you suspect none of those theories are correct. Later that day, a deep rumble moves through the plaza. You brace for another collapse, but it doesn't come. Instead, a section of the palace wall opens, not breaks, opens, like a mouth. Behind it, a staircase descending into darkness. Someone dares to step forward. You recognize him, a corn seller from the western stalls. Honest, friendly. He makes it 3 steps down before he screams, not out of fear, out of joy. I remember now, he shouts. I remember, then he vanishes into the dark. You don't see him again. You and Ixik pace the perimeter, try to peer in. Something about the opening is wrong. It's not carved, it's grown. The stone has pulled back like skin. You decide not to go down. That night you wake to the sound of whispering stone. You sit up, heart racing. The wall beside your mat has changed. A thin crack runs through it now. Glyphs are forming along the fissure one at a time, like droplets falling into ink. You light a candle, watch as your name appears, followed by a glyph you've never seen, a circle surrounded by teeth. Ixik arrives minutes later, eyes wide. Mine too. You compare walls, the same glyph. What does it mean? You both go to Nikti. She looks sick. Her skin is pale and there's clay under her nails like she's been digging. I've been trying to translate it, she whispers. It shows up in the oldest codices, the ones buried under other codices. The glyph means, she swallows, exit. You frown, as in escape, no. As in the other side, where things come out. You turn back to the temple. The pit still yawns there, empty, waiting. You begin to understand. This isn't a collapse, it's a delivery. The temple didn't fall, it opened. Now the city breathes differently, like it's been relieved of pressure. Or maybe unsealed. The wind smells of bone dust and blooming things that shouldn't be blooming. And somewhere beneath your feet, something begins to walk again. You don't sleep anymore, not really. You drift, you float. You lie still while the air hums and your thoughts flicker like dying torches. When you do dream, it's always the same. You stand at the edge of a cliff that wasn't there before, miles above the jungle, which now pulses like a heart. Above you, a sky split in third stars, blinking out one by one, a serpent shedding its light-spotted skin, and a god dying slowly. You know it's a god because it coughs feathers. Bright, iridescent, brilliant. Each one flutters down and lands at your feet where they melt into puddles of ink. One sticks to your hand. You try to shake it off, but it curls around your fingers, and suddenly your veins feel too tight. You wake screaming. Again. Ixik doesn't judge. She's had the same dream. Only now she says the feathers don't land. They burn in midair. You both sit in silence. She speaks again. The gods are dying. You nod. You felt it too. Not just the absence of rituals working or the silence in the temples. Something else. A vacuum. A hole in the divine that used to be full. Historians still explore the concept of deicide in Mesoamerican culture, whether a god could die, be replaced, or simply lose relevance. You now believe the Maya knew exactly what it meant to watch gods fall apart. In the Eastern Temple, one of the high murals has begun flaking. That wouldn't be strange, except it's flaking from the center outward, like it's disintegrating from the soul out. You go to see it. The central figure, once a radiant depiction of Kukulkan the feathered serpent, is barely recognizable. Where there were once feathers, there's now stone. Where there was once movement, rigidity. His eyes are cracked open, and behind them, emptiness. The priests have stopped trying to repair it. Maybe the gods aren't gone, Nicte says, joining you beneath the wall. Maybe they just used up their story. You ask her what she means. Stories die when they stop being told. But what if they rot first? What if they unravel from the inside? That makes you dizzy. You step outside. There's a trail of feathers in the plaza. Not colorful, not bright. These are gray, damp, and they reek of wet clay and something metallic. They lead toward the cenote. You and Ixik follow. At the edge, you find something floating. Not a body, not an offering, a mask. The same serpent mask worn by the priests last season. But the paint is melted, and inside it, feathers not attached, not decorative, just crammed in. You lower a gourd into the water to scoop. The surface shimmers. This time, instead of seeing your reflection, you see someone else's. A face like yours, but not yours. Older, wetter, smiling with lips you've never owned. You drop the gourd. Ixik pulls you back. We're being watched. By who, you whisper. She doesn't answer. Instead, she lifts her hand and points at the sun. It's pulsing, a slow, rhythmic dimming, like a candle gasping in its own wax. That night, the dreams change. Now the god doesn't cough. He weeps. Black tears. Ink. You collect them in your hands. They crawl. When you wake, your hands are stained. You rush to the scriptorium. Nicte is already there. She grabs your wrists before you speak. It's happening, she says, to all of us. She shows you a scroll. Not one she wrote, one she found. The title is simple, The Book of Unmaking. Every page contains the same image drawn dozens of times. A god slouched, face crumbling, and below him a figure rising from the mud, human-shaped, mouthless. No one knows what to call it. You do. You've seen it in the dreams. You've seen it in the mirror of the cenote. It's wearing your skin. The soldiers don't wear colors. They arrive just after dawn, stepping quietly from the tree line, like they've always belonged there. No banners, no drums, no announcement. Just the soft thud of sandals against earth, and the occasional glint of dark bronze dulled with ash. You count 20 of them at first, then 30, then more. No formation, no shouted commands, just steady, synchronized motion like a single creature with many legs. Ixik grabs your hand. They're not ours. You nod. You've never seen armor like that. Each chest plate is etched with spirals clockwise on one side, counterclockwise on the other. Their spears are crooked hooked like farming tools, but sharpened to a killing edge. And their faces, oh gods, their faces. Painted not with color, but with something like soot. Gray-black streaks from forehead to chin bisecting their eyes. No one stops them, not even the guards. Because the guards are gone. No sign of a fight. Just empty posts. Dropped weapons. A trail of footprints leading into the jungle and no footprints returning. The invaders move through the outer plaza, pausing at shrines. They don't destroy. They don't loot. They just touch. Fingertips to stone. Palms to sacred glyphs. You swear the walls shiver when they do. One of them approaches the temple steps, places a small bundle there wrapped in hide tied with sinew, then steps back. The bundle opens on its own. Inside teeth. Not human. Too flat. Too many. You turn away. You're not supposed to see this, but you already did. Ixik whispers, "Are we being invaded?" You shake your head. No. We're being audited. She doesn't laugh, because she's realized it too. This war was never declared. Historians still theorize about warfare in the late classic collapse, evidence of mass burnings, smashed altars, sudden city abandonment. But they always assume someone started it. A king, a rival dynasty. You're watching a war where no one even claims responsibility. The plaza clears out. The invaders don't speak. They gather near the ball court, the same one sealed with vines, and wait. And then, just as the sun reaches its highest point, the temple bell rings. No one rang it. It swings once, twice. The sound echoes through stone and bone. And that's when the screaming starts. Not from the soldiers, from the people. Not because they're being attacked, because they're remembering. Whole families collapse weeping, screaming names no one recognizes, muttering prayers in broken dialects. Ixik falls to her knees beside you. I dreamed this. I dreamed this exact moment. You grip her shoulders. What happens next? She looks up. Her eyes are unfocused. You... Speak, she says. But you stand on the pyramid, she whispers, and you say a name. And it all ends. You pull back. What name? She shakes her head. I don't know. But you already do. You help her to her feet. In the distance, one of the invaders raises a hand, and everything stops. Birds freeze mid-flight. A leaf halts mid-fall. Your own breath feels suspended in your throat. The plaza becomes a pause, and in that pause you hear it. A single word whispered across the city like a breeze, Chahom Keen. Your name, or the name given to you. You look down. It's written across the stones at your feet. In ink, in blood, in bees. They ask you to burn the codices. Not demand, not at first. It's a suggestion delivered in polite tones by the few remaining priests whose eyes still belong to them. They say it with carefully measured voices, to preserve balance, to release burden from memory, to give the gods a clean canvas. You don't answer. You just stare at the bundle of scrolls they've laid before you. Some are sacred ancient lineage records, astronomical calculations so perfect they could track Venus like a slow-moving serpent across the sky. Others are more personal festival songs, harvest ledgers, children's names, written in shaky hands with charcoal and joy. And then there's the one you copied yourself, the Book of Storms, recording every wind shift, every jaguar howl, every wrong eclipse. You remember tracing those glyphs in your youth, each loop and hook holding centuries. They ask again, more softly, burn them before they burn you. Ixik arrives just as you're deciding. She sees the pile. Her face hardens. They're erasing us. You nod. You know it now. This isn't just forgetting. This is unmaking. You think of the boy who returned without eyes, but full of song. Of the honey that crawled. Of the court that played itself. You ask the priest, what happens if we don't burn them? He tilts his head. Smiles. Too many teeth. Then they will. You glance at the horizon. Smoke rises from the west. Another city. Another library. Historians still debate the systematic destruction of Maya codices. Some were lost to time. Others infamously burned by invaders centuries later. But you now understand some were burned from the inside out. That night, you gather what you can. You don't burn them. Not yet. Instead, you bury them. Deep beneath your hut, wrapped in obsidian-laced cloth soaked in salt, you whisper to the earth, remember me. It doesn't respond. but you feel the dirt shift like it's tucking something in. The next morning, the priests are gone. Their sandals remain, arranged in a circle outside the temple, each filled with ash. The scriptorium is empty too, but the walls are covered in new writing. You don't recognize the glyphs. Nicte does. She reads them aloud, voice cracking. There will be no more pages. You step outside. The sun is out, but it doesn't shine. The light lands wrong, sideways, like it's being cast from a place it shouldn't exist. Ixik finds you. She holds out a scrap of bark paper. On it a name. Yours, but reversed. You frown. What does it mean? She says it means they're done waiting for you to forget. Now they want you to help them remember. The new story. You shake your head. I don't know how. She places your hand on the scroll. It burns. But the fire doesn't hurt. It writes. It begins drawing your spine in symbols, mapping your breath, recording your dreams. You try to pull away, but it's too late. The codex is no longer bark. It's you. You close your eyes and hear distant pages turning. Only there's no one reading. Just listening. The stars are out of place. You lie on your back beside Ixik, staring up into what used to be the most dependable thing in your world. An ocean of fixed patterns and stories written in light. But tonight, Orion isn't hunting. The Jaguar constellation has moved, and the Pleiades gone entirely. They've stopped dancing, Ixik whispers. You glance at her. Who the stars? They don't turn anymore. And she's right. The sky feels stuck, like it's holding its breath. The elders begin to argue. You hear them in the plaza pacing around their massive stone calendars. This is a misalignment, one mutters. A temporary wobble. The gods are correcting the axis, another says. No, an astronomer whispers. The calendar is correct. It's the sky that's wrong. You pass by one of their charts later, a beautiful concentric wheel covered in glyphs tracking Venus and the eclipse cycles. Someone has carved a long slash through the center. Historians still marvel at the Maya's mastery of celestial movement. But none of them have seen a priest weep over the sun's refusal to rise where it should. You sit beside Nicte, who's sketching the stars again. Or trying to. See that one she points? You nod. It wasn't there last night. And now it's in every quadrant. You frown. That's not possible. She looks at you, eyes wide and exhausted. Exactly. Later, the talking stops. The arguments end. Because a new glyph has appeared on the sky calendar's outer ring. Not carved, not painted. Grown. It pulses faintly like the veins beneath skin. No one dares touch it. The glyph means unscheduled, a word you've never seen before. Ixik visits just before midnight. She says she hasn't slept in 2 days. She says the dreams have changed. They're not memories anymore, she whispers. They're instructions. She hands you a page, something she wrote in her half-sleep. It's a sequence. Symbols, movements. You recognize one, a glyph used to reset a calendar. It's never used. It's theoretical. Another glyph means begin again. But the final one, a perfect circle with a line split through the middle. You ask Nicte. She looks pale. That's not from this world. You go to the observatory platform, the tallest structure left untouched by vines or fire. You climb in silence. At the top, wind buffets your face. The stars are too close. You can hear them now. Not sound. Something deeper, like a ringing in your ribs. Then you see it. The sun. Not rising, just hovering. Half dipped below the jungle canopy, stuck like a coin caught in the seam of time. And above it, circling slowly, something new. A star that moves. Not a planet, not a comet. a star with purpose. Ixik gasps. That's not ours. And deep in your chest, you know she's right. That night, the priests light every fire. Not in celebration, in warning. People kneel, people cry. A woman walks into the jungle and does not come back. And you trace your name into the dirt again. But this time the dirt pushes back. You arrive at the market expecting chaos. It used to be full of life, fragrant with roasted cacao, bright with hand-dyed cloth, loud with bartering. Now it's silent. No stalls, no goods. Just people standing in rows, staring at one another like they're waiting for a signal. You pass a woman holding a basket full of feathers. She offers you one. You reach for it, but she shakes her head. Not for hands, she says. For memory. You back away. Another merchant offers clay beads, shaped like ears. When you ask what they're for, he says, they let the others hear us. The others, you ask. He smiles. The ones who never needed mouths. You keep walking. At the center of the plaza, where the spice seller once danced to flute music and children used to chase chickens between stone benches, there's now a ring of people. They're whispering, but not to each other. Each one speaks softly into an object, a bundle of ash, a broken bowl, a stone with a hole through the middle. You stop at one woman. She's holding a crust of burnt bread to her lips. What are you doing? She doesn't look at you. Making trade. With who? She finally glances up. Her eyes are wide and her pupils are slits. Ghost markets, she says. They accept offerings if you whisper the right thing. Ixik appears beside you, her voice low. None of this is barter anymore. This is petition. You walk the rows together. Everything on display is wrong. Rotten feathers. Rocks carved with faces that blink when the wind shifts. Jewelry made of fingernails. A man tries to sell you a jug of rainwater. You open it. It's full of dust. He grins. But it remembers rain. You ask, how much? He says, a heartbeat. You don't ask what that means. Historians speak of declining trade in the last days, cities shifting from food and jade to bizarre items like bones, teeth symbols. You're watching it happen. There's no economy anymore. Just desperation dressed as tradition. At the far end of the market, someone has hung a banner. Not made of cloth. It's woven from hair. On it is written, everything must go. But beneath that, someone added in smaller glyphs, especially us. You sit with Ixik on the edge of the fountain. The water is dry. Inside, coins have arranged themselves into a spiral. You didn't do it. She pulls out something from her satchel. A stone. Pale green. I traded my shadow for this, she says. You turn. What she stands. Sure enough, no shadow. She shrugs. It wasn't doing much for me anyway. You stare at the stone. It pulses faintly. You don't ask what it does. Because you already know. It remembers her. That night, the market is lit. Not by torches, but by reflections. Not on water. On people. You see a man walk past you, his skin shimmering like obsidian. You swear for a second you can see your own face in his back. He turns. Smile. You don't sleep. The next morning your shadow is thinner. Not shorter, not angled. Just reduced. Like someone trimmed it. Like it's being slowly negotiated. The road is too quiet. You walk it out of habit more than hope, this long white stone path that once sang with traders' footsteps, with children chasing wheels with the bark of traveling dogs. Now your steps echo. Even the lizards are gone. You try to hum a song to fill the silence. It dies in your throat. Ixik walks beside you, holding a reed flute she no longer plays. Do you hear that, she asks. You pause. Strain. Nothing. No birds, she says. No insects. Not even the wind. She's right. The jungle is still, as if something massive has exhaled and hasn't breathed back in. You pass a stone marker, a milestone carved with glyphs that should say how far to the next village. But they've changed. Now it reads, "You've already left." Further down the path, you see belongings. A shawl, a bundle of maize, a child's doll carved from bone. All dropped, left behind. No footprints, just indentations in the road, like the people weren't walking, but slowly sink in. Ixik kneels and touches one. It's soft. Stone isn't supposed to be soft. She presses harder, and her finger disappears a little too far. She jerks it back with a shudder. "It swallowed me," she whispers. You walk faster now. At the next curve in the road, you find a man sitting cross-legged, alone, silent. He's not from your village. His clothes are ceremonial, frayed with age. On his lap a scroll, on his face nothing. No eyes, no nose, just a mouth. And that mouth is whispering even though it's sewn shut. You don't get closer. You just step around him. Ixik mutters he's from the stele. You blink. What, there's a carving near the temple. A figure with no face. He's sitting just like that. She's right. Historians note depictions of faceless watchers in a handful of carvings across Petentikal Kalakmul, rare, unexplained. You've just walked past one, breathing. The road bends again, and you stop short. A figure stands ahead, arms stretched wide, covered in vines. You approach cautiously. It's a statue. No, not quite. It's a person, wrapped in vines that have grown through him, holding him upright, like a marionette. His eyes are open and full of dust. His mouth is filled with roots. Ixik turns. Let's go back. You nod, but when you turn around, the road is gone. Where it once lay pale and solid, there is now only jungle. No sign of the milestone, or the doll, or the faceless man. Just green. You walk a few steps forward, then stop, because the vines are shifting. Gently, toward you. You back away, hand on Ixik's. The only direction left is forward. The sky above begins to darken, but not like a storm. The light folds inward like cloth being pulled from the edges of a basket. You walk, not because it's safe, because it's the only thing the road will still let you do. The wind returns, but it doesn't blow. It whispers. Your name, not aloud. The king is still alive. At least, that's what they tell you. He appears on the temple balcony at sunset, just as the last rays of light bend wrong across the plaza. His figure is as regal as ever, broad-shouldered, cloaked in shimmering feathers, headdress tall and sharp like a rising dagger. But something's off. You're too far to see clearly, but even from here, his stillness is unnatural. He doesn't wave, doesn't nod, doesn't blink. Ixik notices it too. He hasn't moved since he came out. You squint harder. He's not breathing. There's a beat of silence between you. And then she says it, "That's not the king." You both approach slowly. A crowd has gathered, hushed, uneasy. A child clings to her mother's leg and whispers, "He's being worn." The mother tries to hush her, but she's not wrong. The way his robe hangs, the stiffness of the arms, the neck turned just a little too far. You feel it in your gut. Someone is inside the king. Or something. Historians found depictions of rulers in ceremonial death masks, meant to resemble gods. But what if the mask was the ruler? A priest steps forward. He announces, the king wishes to preserve his silence to maintain the balance. You want to laugh or scream. Instead, you watch as the priest raises the king's hand for him. It moves, barely, jerkily, like a puppet pulled by frayed strings. You leave. You walk the city in a haze, past empty homes, and windows filled with blinking eyes, some human, some not. The road to the palace is lined with salt now, not poured, grown, crystallized in glyphs that spell obey, forget, yield. You pass a mural depicting the king's ascension. It's changed since last moon. His face is gone, scraped away. In its place, a spiral. Later that night, Ixik sneaks you into the eastern chamber. The true king is there, or what's left of him. Lying on a stone slab, skin, pale lips, stitched shut. And beside him, a priest, one of the old ones, sits carving glyphs into his chest. You don't scream. You can't. Because the glyphs are glowing. Each symbol pulses as it's carved. Not with blood, but with light. You stumble backward. Ixik pulls you away. Outside, the moon has split. Not visibly, not physically, but it reflects twice in the water. And you feel that a great rift has opened. The king has not died. He's been put on pause, preserved like a scroll in damp ash. And the one on the balcony you don't know. You don't want to know. But in your sleep, you see yourself wearing his headdress. You stand over a city made of vines and bone. You raise your hand. They all kneel. You whisper a name. Not yours. Not anymore. The forest has started to swallow everything. Not slowly, not the gentle reclaiming you once knew where roots crept patiently into courtyards and moss-painted old altars in green size. This is deliberate, fast, hungering. You wake to find vines wrapped around your doorframe. They weren't there last night. You cut them back with obsidian. By morning, they've grown longer and tighter. Ixik's hut is half consumed. Only the roof shows now like a sunken house in floodwater made of leaves. She shrugs. I don't sleep there anymore. You try to laugh. It comes out brittle. As you walk the central road, you notice the temples are vanishing. Not collapsing, not crumbling, disappearing. One by one, their shapes blur into the jungle. You stare at the spot where the Temple of Breath once stood. You were just there last week. Now only trees, thick, twisted, new. And something deeper paths forming between trunks where no paths should be. Nikta finds you pacing near the scriptorium. She's barefoot, wild-eyed, clutching a scrap of parchment. They're erasing the map, she whispers. What map? She opens the parchment. It's a layout of the city, except most of it is gone, ink faded or rubbed away, and the remaining districts are shifting, floating around the page like islands on a sea of rot. I didn't do this, she says. It changes while I sleep. She flips the scroll. On the back, scrawled over and over in spidery glyphs, return to the root. Return to the root. You drop it. The ground beneath you shudders, not violently, but in a way that makes your toes itch, like something breathing deep below. Ixik points toward the horizon. The trees are climbing the sky. You follow her gaze. She's right. The canopy, once distant and contained, is reaching up, not just out. Tendrils of green stretch like fingers toward the heavens. And above them, a shape. Dark, vast, not cloud. Something coiled. Something waiting. Historians cite environmental degradation as a factor in collapsed soil depletion, over-farming, deforestation. You're standing in a paradox. The forest isn't dying. It's multiplying. But it's not natural anymore. This isn't growth. This is replacement. A new tree grows overnight in the center of the plaza. Broad, ancient-looking. You count its rings. You stop at 50. The bark is smooth, but inside its patterned faces. Dozens, hundreds, all wide-eyed, all silent. Ixik touches it. Recoils. Her fingers are bleeding. She whispers, I heard my mother's voice in there. Your mother died 6 years ago. You don't question it. You walk the edge of the city, or what's left of it. Every road ends in vines. Every corner bends into jungle. You step carefully, trying to reach the last visible stele. Its glyphs are mostly gone, replaced with claw marks and a spiral. You press your hand to it. The stone pulses once like a heartbeat. Then a whisper, "You've been planted." You stumble back. You feel dirt in your lungs. You cough. Black seeds spill out. Ixik helps you to your knees. "We're not living here anymore," she murmurs. "We're being grown here." You look around. Buildings once towering are now small, shrinking, dwarfed by vines. You wonder if you'll wake up one day and the whole city will be gone. Not destroyed, just absorbed. And no one will remember it was ever here, not even you. You wake up and your name is gone. Not forgotten, erased. Your mat is empty. Your hut is colder. When Ixik calls for you, she pauses halfway through the word like it caught in her throat and disintegrated. You answer, but she flinches. "What did you say, my name?" She stares at you. That's not your voice. You rush to the plaza. Try to find anyone who remembers you. But every time you say it, their eyes slide off your face. They blink. They look past you. You grab Nikta's arm. "Say it. Say my name." She frowns. I knew it yesterday." She opens her scroll of census records. You scan the columns. You're not there. In your place, a glyph, meaning vacated. You stumble back, heart pounding. In the stone basin beside the temple, someone has etched a message. The name must return before the body can stay. Your mouth feels dry, not just from thirst, from absence. You can no longer taste food or speak without effort. Your voice drags like a dull knife. Ixik tries to help. She carves the syllables of your name onto a strip of bark, burns it in incense. You breathe the smoke. For a moment you feel whole, but then the smoke turns cold. And inside it whispers in your voice, mocking, repeating your name over and over, then warping it. Historians sometimes describe name erasure in terms of political exile, scratched faces, forgotten tombs. But you're not being exiled. You're being unwritten. And the worst part, something else is using the space where your name used to live. You hear it when you speak. A subtle hitch, a borrowed tone. Ixik holds you close that night, whispering your name over and over like an incantation. It doesn't stick. When you close your eyes, you see the glyph on the last remaining stele. Not your name. A symbol for placeholder. You wake to find someone sleeping in your mat. You gently reach out, fingers trembling. They look up. It's you, but not. Their eyes are wider. Mouth slightly wrong. Skin like a wax version of memory. They smile. Thank you for the name. Ixik bursts in, gasping. "Run," she says. "It's done. You're fading. You try. You move. But the vines are already growing around your ankles. And your shadow no longer moves when you do. You whisper your name again, desperate. And the earth responds too late. The plaza is empty. You don't know how long it's been this way, an hour, a night, a cycle. The sky is turned to parchment again, washed of stars, smeared in gray gold light that has no source. You're the last one who can see it. Not the light. The city. The temples are silhouettes flat as memories. The stone has no texture. The water in the basin no longer reflects. Even the wind avoids this place now. Ixik is gone. She didn't die. She didn't scream. She looked at you one last time and said, "I remember you," with tears in her eyes. Then she stepped backward into a tree that wasn't there before and disappeared. You walk to the center of the city. What remains? The spiral of coins in the fountain has rearranged itself. Now it reads one word end. The stelae are blank, the codices dissolved. You are the last sentence in a language no one speaks anymore. Above the sun flickers like a fire running out of breath. You sit at the foot of the altar. The bloodstains are gone. The vines have retreated. Everything feels like an old dream. And still you wait. Because something must come next. Something always does. The air thickens. There's a sound faint at first. Not drums, not flutes. A low hum, like chanting without voices. You stand, face the final temple. You know what's coming. One last ritual. No gods, no witnesses. Just you and the memory of what was once a civilization. You raise your hand. Speak the name they took, the name they feared. Your name, Chahom Kin. The sky exhales. The city flickers. And then nothing. The jungle is quiet now. The vines curl gently over stone, and memory pulling everything back into the earth. You stand beneath a sky that no longer pulses wrapped in the soft hush of distant trees. The heat has faded. The tension is gone. There is no more waiting, only peace. Soft moss coats the last remaining glyphs. The cenote lies still, no whispers, no reflections, just water. Cool, dark. The path you once walked daily has vanished beneath flowers that bloom without light. There's no rush anymore. No watchers, no names being carved into skin. The gods are gone, or resting maybe. Or maybe they were never gods at all. Just stories too big to fit in the mouths of those who whispered them. The city sleeps now. And you are free from history. No more eclipses to dread. No more scrolls to burn. No more names to defend. Just the sound of leaves brushing together overhead. The slow rhythm of a world that no longer needs to be told what it is. No more rituals. No more questions. Just stillness. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts fall like feathers into the underworld's waiting hand. You are not forgotten. You are remembering backwards, and with each breath, the past becomes softer, until it too disappears. Just like the city, just like the name, just like the final hours. Good night, traveler. You've made it through the end.